Dun, 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 dun. Ah! Hello, I'm the movie critic. I remember it so you don't have to. And welcome to my heavily delayed / sequence season 2 finale. Dun dun. Yes, I said heavily delayed. I did not do the season finale for / sequence season 2 because I got busy with my vacation and everything. I got too busy that I couldn't do the finale. And besides, I want to do a few more horror movies in November because Thanksgiving is a good time for horror, I guess. So this can be 2 in 1. So let's start with number 1 first, the season finale. Or as I like to call it, Orphan First Kill. Dun dun. Released in 2022, Orphan First Kill was not distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures, and instead was distributed by Paramount, and was instead distributed by Dark Castle Entertainment, Entertainment One, Paramount Pictures in 2022. After Warner Brothers possibly tried to push this movie to a same-day HBO Max release. The first movie was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. But sadly, the sequel would not get so lucky. Paramount Pictures distributed the film sequel in 2022. Bit of background. This movie went through a lot of reshoots and rewrites before its release, to a point where this movie did not become a sequel. It became a prequel. Yes, this movie was a prequel to the first movie. But also, this can be seen as a sequel to the first movie if you squint hard enough. But what you need to still squint for is Esther's true motives. You see, Esther on one hand Esther is still the main threat. This movie does something actually genius with Esther. Instead of the movie just tackling the same story threads as the first one, this movie chooses to ignore that idea of going on to a sequel. Instead, this movie basically gives us the thing about Esther, about Lena trying to keep up the Esther ruse. Yes, unlike the first movie, which Esther was fully Esther the whole movie, this movie focuses more on Lena than Esther. Something I actually enjoyed for somewhat. I get Esther's problem. She has a rare disorder that prevents her growth, which keeps her at 9 years old. This movie shows some of that with a doctor giving Esther's teacher Anna the rundown on Esther. Something that we don't really need. We know about Esther's little problem. We know about Esther's problem, so to speak. She can't age. So we know about Esther's little age defect. So we know about that. We know about Esther's teeny-weeny birth defect. So we know about that already. But surprisingly, Esther's not the villain. Now, before you say it, wait, Esther's not the villain? I thought she was. Wrong. The villain goes to Esther's adopted mother, who turns out killed Esther. Now look, Lena is still a proven threat. But let's just say the mother is a more bigger threat than Esther ever was. The mother, voiced by Julia Stiles, is fine. I wouldn't say she lives up to Isabel Fuhrman, who again returned to voice Esther. Now this was a problem. Isabel Fuhrman was 23 at the time of doing Orphan First Kill. When in the first movie, she played Esther when she was 9. Now, instead of using CG and de-aging technology, Orphan First Kill went for none of that technology. Something that I'm happy they didn't use. Because I think using AI would be pretty cheap. In my opinion, I think using AI would be cheap. So instead of using AI to de-age Esther, they used something different. They used oversized wardrobe and child stunt doubles. They used child stunt doubles and an oversized wardrobe in order to do the de-aging effect, as well as makeup. Something which I think works perfectly for Esther. This leads us into our next review, Orphan 2009. Now, I've covered this movie in great detail twice. So if you want to see the review, I suggest watching that one. Because I went into not a lot of detail on Esther in both. Remember, I chose not to spoil anything. And instead, I chose to just not do anything spoilery. But in this review, I'm going all in. We can say this movie picks up 2 months after Orphan First Kill. So this movie picks up after that movie, which can be seen at the end of the movie where we see the stinger with a psychiatric ward promising to find Esther a home. Now, unlike this movie's ending, unlike the sequel, the first movie had a deleted alternate ending. Yes, this movie had a deleted alternate ending. One that even I was surprised about. This movie's alternate ending is different, to say the least. But it is actually something you wouldn't expect. You see, this movie picks up with Esther after the events on the lake. Returning in the dress that she wore on the first day of school and covered in blood. This ending is chill-inducing. This ending is chill-inducing. It makes me think this ending would have been better than the one we got. Now this leads me into my prediction on how Kate and Max will play into Orphan 3. This movie will pick up, I believe, after the first Orphan and first Kill. So this will be both a sequel and a prequel. Possibly I know how the movie begins. It begins 2 months after. I think it would pick up 2 months after the first movie. I already did a full Orphan headcanon. Where no one believes Max and Kate about Esther being a killer, about a little girl killing them, trying to kill them. Now, no other cast members has been cast yet, which is odd. Yes, there's one problem. There are no other cast members. Only the returning Isabel Furman is confirmed. The movie is shooting right now under the working title Orphans, with Lionsgate producing. We don't have any. Orphan 3 may release either in 2027 or 2028. My prediction is 2027 to be closer. This movie will probably release in 2027. The movie's right now shooting in Budapest. Orphan 3 is right now filming in Budapest. Orphan 3 is so far shooting right now in Budapest, with Isabel Furman on set. I'm predicting we will get something at CinemaCon next year. If Lionsgate does attend CinemaCon like they did last year, which I'm thinking if Lionsgate does attend CinemaCon next year, which I'm sure they will, I'm thinking since I'm sure Lionsgate's will attend next year's CinemaCon. So that's where we can expect an Orphan 3 announcement. Or at least maybe some semblance of one. I wouldn't go on a limb to say we would get a full Orphan 3 announcement at CinemaCon. I wouldn't go on a limb saying we would get the announcement at next year's CinemaCon. This movie's in shooting right now, so I don't think Isabel Furman would be able to make it to CinemaCon to tease any release date news. Or heck, maybe she will. Who knows? Isabel Furman could arrive at CinemaCon to tease something. Now this leads into one of my theories for how Kate's original daughter died. Lena. The nurse in that scene looked like her. So maybe Lena escaped the orphanage and disguised herself as a nurse, possibly killed the baby, and then decided to infiltrate to make the family easy for her to infiltrate. Esther already had infiltrated a family who lost a daughter before, so she needs another family that would be naive and not too bright enough to take in another daughter, and that is where Esther wouldn't fit right in. We know Esther's a cunning manipulator, like any horror movie. Like every other horror villain before her, Esther is a cunning manipulator. And that's thanks to the voice provided to her by Isabel Fuhrman. Isabel Fuhrman does a fantastic job, and I can't wait to see what she pulls off for this next installment. And I can't wait to see what Isabel Fuhrman pulls off for the sequel. For this film's sequel. Or prequel, whatever they want to do. My prediction is they'll go the prequel route again. But with this being both prequel and sequel, we could have a requel on our hands. We could have a film following the requel phenomenon on our hands. But what we could also have is a film following the requel phenomenon on our hands. But I think what we could also have is a film that follows the new requel phenomenon. Yep, we could have an orphan requel on our hands instead of an orphan seed prequel. Now, unlike most requels, I don't think this movie will ignore Orphan First Kill happened. I don't think Isabel Fuhrman will ignore Orphan First Kill happened. I don't think Isabel Fuhrman would want to ignore her prequel movie ever happened. I think Isabel Fuhrman will possibly want Orphan First Kill to remain intact. Which I think she will. We need that movie to remain somewhat intact, but not fully intact where this movie plays out as a direct sequel. We need this movie not to be a direct sequel to 2009's 2022's Orphan First Kill. We've been wondering what happened to Kate and Max after Orphan 1, so I think it's time we finally get an answer. But as always, I'll cover that when it comes out, when it inevitably comes out on Blu-ray. Because I do not review movies until they come. I don't review new movies till they release on Blu-ray. But now let's get into something. Now let's get into Esther's cunning manipulations. First off, getting Max to do her dirty work. You see, Esther's the cunning manipulator who can weasel her way into any situation. Even into the little heart of Max. Here's where Esther plays the little sister card. Now, Esther knows about Max being tone deaf. Max can't understand anyone, really. She's tone deaf. We don't know how Max became tone deaf, we know how Max became tone deaf. It was because of one of her sons that did it. It was because of one of Esther's new mother's sons that did it, but we don't know as an audience. This is more of a mystery we need to put together. I think they set it up perfectly as a mystery we, the audience, have to put together, instead of the movie being a mystery that Orphan First Kill spoils, that Orphan 1 spoils. It's actually kind of clever how they don't spoil how Max became tone deaf. Orphan's a movie that keeps its cards pretty close to the chest. And that goes the same for its antagonist, Esther. This girl is creepy with her line delivery. There are red flags all over this movie. And I noticed them from the beginning. And I noticed the red flags since the beginning of the movie, since the first scene we ran into Esther. You don't see any of Lena's red flags in Orphan First Kill because there are none to notice. Because there are no red flags for us to notice with Esther in First Kill. The red flags can actually be attributed to her new adoptive mother. To her new adoptive mother figure. She's the one who has all the red flags, not Esther. Something which I think is clever. From a certain point of view. I see Esther's new mother being the one who you want to watch out for from a certain point of view. I do not see it being Esther in this movie. Because the mother knows that they couldn't have found Esther because she killed her. Which leads to the moment I was dreading the most. Esther would have to kill her to keep her secret. Yep, in order to keep this secret, Esther would have to kill her accomplice. Because if anyone found out about Esther's little secret, and Esther's I think one of horror's best villains. Something that I will make a separate video essay on Esther in the future. Don't worry, a separate video essay on Esther is coming. I already have a perfect script wrote out for that review, and I should have it out by the end of the year. I'm hoping. This isn't a promise that it will release by the end of the year, but it will help us. But here's the next part of this that concerns me. We know that Esther's no social butterfly. This is why she's upstairs painting instead of downstairs with all the other little girls at the party. Esther reveals that no one at the party really interests her. Which is curious to me. Now this is where things get a little bit creepy. But as I said, I'm keeping Esther's secret under wraps. I think that's what Isabel Furman would want. So I'm keeping Esther's secret under wraps. You all will have to find out Esther's little secret for yourself. As I said in my original video, I hate spoilers. I find that spoilers ruin a movie if given. I always find that a spoiler can ruin a movie if they're given to someone. I always find that a spoiler can ruin a movie if given. I can find that a spoiler can ruin the movie if given to someone, and I don't like spoilers. I have a dislike for spoilers, and it's a seething hatred. This is why I avoided spoilers for the season 4 finale of MLP as best as I could. But when I found out about T-Rex being the villain, that's when the spoilers hit me. That's why I went in and watched Orphan on the Prime Video Roku channel before its kill count. I didn't want spoilers. I didn't want any spoilers whatsoever. But a good performance by Isabel Fuhrman isn't all that makes Orphan a fun movie from start to finish. It's also Esther's fashion sense. This makes me predict how Orphan 3 will work as a prequel. We need to know where Esther got all that fashion sense from. We've got no news on a Blu-ray featurettes, so we don't know where Esther got her odd fashion sense from, but I can theorize on where. I actually did a great theory on that in my Orphan 3 headcanon, where I just said Esther killed someone at a... They don't mention that Esther had other families before she infiltrated the... We only know one family she infiltrated. 2 families that she infiltrated. The last name's hard to pronounce. Kate's family. There. Kate's family and another family. 2 families she infiltrated. And those are the only 2 we have concrete connections for. But her elegant style could have something to do with a British subplot. So maybe Esther did infiltrate some sort of rich Britain family or something. We don't have any concrete evidence. And one of my favorite scenes is Esther and Max's relationship. These 2 have a strong relationship, one that is strong in this movie for many, many reasons. It's a fun relationship I like the most in this movie. But here's where Esther's veil begins to crack. You see, if you thought Esther could keep her secret, oh, you're wrong. Because soon the walls of Esther begin to crumble. As the orphanage nun mother arrives at the Clayman house. This is where Esther begins to panic. She now realizes she's cornered with no way out. Esther now knows she's been cornered with no possible way of escaping this. And she sees the orphanage mother as a loose end. But sadly, she'll need to do some unorthodox way to get rid of her. How unorthodox, do you ask?